They don't come with threats, they come with warmth, with charm, with a smile that feels safe, and that's exactly why they're dangerous. The friendly manipulator is often the most difficult person to spot, especially for those over 60, because they don't look like a threat. They look like help, like companionship, like relief from loneliness. They offer to carry your groceries, fix your TV, help with your banking, and slowly, they become part of your routine, part of your comfort zone, part of your trust circle. But behind that kindness is a quiet agenda, a need for control, a hunger for access. They don't ask for money at first. They ask for time, for stories, for small favors, and in return, they give attention, validation, and the illusion of care. And that illusion is powerful, especially for someone who hasn't felt truly seen in years, who misses conversation, who longs for connection. And so the manipulator becomes indispensable. The one who checks in, the one who remembers your medication, the one who makes you feel important again. But slowly, the balance shifts. They begin to make decisions for you, speak on your behalf, discourage you from talking to others, and question your judgment. They might say things like, "Don't worry, I'll handle it," or "You don't need to tell your family," or "They don't care about you like I do," and those words, wrapped in sweetness, begin to isolate you. They may start managing your finances, suggesting changes to your will or asking for access to your accounts. And because they've earned your trust, you hesitate to say no. And when you do push back, they don't get angry. They get hurt, disappointed, distant, and that emotional withdrawal feels like punishment, like abandonment, like guilt. And so you give in again, not because you're weak, but because you're human, and because their manipulation is designed to feel like love. And the tragedy is that by the time you realize what's happening, they've already woven themselves into your life. And pulling away feels impossible. This chapter is a warning, not just about the manipulator, but about the loneliness that makes their presence feel like a gift. It's a call to trust your instincts, to notice when help starts feeling like control, when kindness starts feeling like obligation, when care starts feeling like confinement. Because manipulation doesn't always look like abuse. Sometimes it looks like friendship, like loyalty, like devotion. And if you're over 60, you've earned the right to be cautious, to ask questions, to set boundaries, to protect your space. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because they're nice. You owe yourself safety, clarity, and peace. And if someone's presence makes you feel confused, indebted, or dependent, it's time to pause and reflect. Talk to someone you trust, review your decisions, reclaim your autonomy. Because the friendly manipulator thrives in silence, in secrecy, in isolation. And the moment you speak up, the moment you name what's happening, the spell begins to break. This chapter is not about fear, it's about awareness, about empowerment, about honoring your wisdom and your worth. You are not alone, and you are not helpless. You are experienced, intuitive, and strong. And the more you trust yourself, the harder it becomes for anyone to use your heart against you. They don't yell, they don't threaten, they don't steal, they guilt. And guilt, when delivered by someone you love, someone you raised, someone you trusted, can feel heavier than any insult, more manipulative than any scam, and more confusing than any betrayal. The guilt-tripping relative doesn't ask. They imply, they sigh, they remind you of all they've done, all they've sacrificed, all they've given. And they do it in a way that makes you feel like you owe them something, like your boundaries are selfish, like your independence is abandonment. They say things like, "You never call anymore. I guess I'm not important, after everything I've done for you." And those words, wrapped in disappointment, pierce deeper than anger ever could. And if you're over 60, those words hit differently, because you remember the years you gave, the nights you stayed up, the sacrifices you made, and now, instead of gratitude, you're met with emotional invoices. They don't ask how you're doing, they ask why you didn't do more, why you didn't show up, why you didn't give what they expected. And slowly, you begin to question yourself, am I being selfish? Did I forget something? Do I owe them more? And that doubt becomes a leash, pulling you back into patterns of overgiving, over-explaining, overcompensating. And the tragedy is that guilt-tripping often comes from those closest to you. Children, siblings, even grandchildren. People who know your heart, who know your history, who know exactly which words will make you feel responsible, and they use that knowledge not always out of cruelty, but out of habit, out of entitlement, out of their own unresolved pain. But their pain is not your debt, and their expectations are not your obligation. You are allowed to live your life, to set boundaries, to say no, to prioritize your peace, even if it disappoints someone. And if someone makes you feel guilty for choosing yourself, for resting, for protecting your time, that's not love. That's control dressed as concern. This chapter is a mirror, not to shame anyone, but to reflect the emotional dynamics that often go unnoticed, unspoken, unchallenged. It's a reminder that guilt is not proof of wrongdoing. It's often a tool used to manipulate, to extract, to dominate. And if you feel guilty all the time, if you're constantly apologizing, constantly explaining, constantly trying to prove your love, pause, breathe, reflect. Ask yourself, is this guilt mine, or was it given to me? And if it was given, you have the right to return it. You have the right to say, I love you, but I won't carry this. I care, but I won't be controlled. I'm here, but I won't be guilt into disappearing. Because guilt should never be the currency of relationships, and love should never feel like a transaction. This chapter is for every elder who has been made to feel like they're not enough, not present, not generous, despite a lifetime of giving. It's a call to reclaim your emotional space, to recognize manipulation even when it wears a familiar face, and to remember that your worth is not measured by how much you sacrifice, but by how deeply you honor yourself. They don't knock down your door, they hold it open for you. They don't demand your trust, they earn it, slowly, gently, with gestures that feel like kindness. The overly helpful stranger is the one who notices you struggling with your groceries, offers to fix your remote, helps you set up your phone, and before you know it, they become part of your daily life. And if you're over 60, their presence can feel like a blessing. Someone who understands technology, someone who listens, someone who shows up when others don't. And at first, it's harmless, a ride to the pharmacy, a quick errand, a chat over tea, but slowly, the help becomes habitual, then expected, then controlling. They begin to make decisions for you, discourage you from doing things alone, suggest you don't worry about it, while they take over tasks you used to manage. And the shift is subtle. You stop calling your bank because they do it for you. You stop checking your mail because they already brought it in. You stop asking questions because they always have the answers. And what began as support becomes dependence, and dependence becomes vulnerability. They may not ask for money, not yet, but they begin to influence your choices, your routines, your relationships. They might say things like, you don't need to tell your kids, or, I'm the only one who really helps you, and those words, wrapped in care, begin to isolate you. And the tragedy is that you don't notice it at first, because it feels good to be helped, to be seen, to be cared for. But help without boundaries is control, and care without transparency is manipulation. And when you try to reclaim your independence, to say, I'll do it myself, I want to check with someone else, I need space, they may react with hurt, with guilt, with withdrawal, and that emotional shift makes you question yourself. Am I being ungrateful? Did I do something wrong? Will they leave me now? And that fear keeps you silent, keeps you compliant, keeps you dependent. This chapter is a warning, not against kindness, but against unchecked access. It's a reminder that not all help is healthy, and not all support is safe. If someone's presence makes you feel smaller, less capable, less free, it's time to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, do I feel empowered, or do I feel managed? And if the answer leans toward the latter, it's time to set boundaries. Talk to someone you trust, review your routines, reclaim your autonomy. Because your independence is not a burden, it's a right. And if someone truly cares for you, they will celebrate your strength, not quietly replace it. This chapter is for every elder who has been made to feel like they can't do things alone, who has been subtly convinced that help means surrender, who has lost their voice in the name of convenience. It's a call to remember your capability, your wisdom, your right to choose. Because the overly helpful stranger may not mean harm, but harm can still happen when help becomes control and silence becomes consent. You are not fragile, you are not helpless, you are not dependent. You are experienced, intuitive, and worthy of respect. And the moment you reclaim your space, your decisions, your voice, the spell begins to break, and your life begins to breathe again. They wear suits, speak in polished tones, and carry the aura of authority, and that's exactly why they're dangerous. The financial advisor who never explains doesn't come to steal. They come to guide, to advise, to help you grow your money, and if you're over 60, they know exactly how to speak your language. Security, legacy, peace of mind. They use words like diversify, low risk, long-term gain. And they nod reassuringly while you nod back, not because you understand, but because you don't want to seem foolish, and that's their power, not in what they say, but in what they don't. They don't explain the fine print, the fees, the risks, the lock-in periods. They just say, trust me. And for many elders, trust feels easier than asking questions. But trust without clarity is a trap, and advice without transparency is manipulation. They may suggest changing your will, moving your savings, investing in products you've never heard of, and they do it with urgency. This offer won't last. You need to act now. Everyone's doing it, and urgency is the enemy of wisdom, especially when it's wrapped in charm. They may not ask for your money directly. They'll ask for access, for signatures, for decisions made in haste. And when things go wrong, when returns don't come, when accounts are locked, when fees pile up, they'll say, you misunderstood. It's market behavior. It's not my fault. And you'll sit there, confused, ashamed, wondering how you let this happen. But it's not your fault. It's theirs, for using your trust as a tool, your age as a vulnerability, your silence as permission. And the tragedy is that many elders don't speak up, not because they don't want to, but because they feel embarrassed, feel responsible, feel like they should have known better. And that silence protects the manipulator, not the victim. This chapter is a wake-up call, not against financial advisors, but against blind trust. It's a reminder that you have the right to ask questions, to demand explanations, to say, I don't understand, explain it again. And if someone makes you feel small for asking, they're not helping, they're hiding. Real advisors empower you, educate you, walk you through every step. Manipulators rush you, flatter you, and leave you in the dark. And if you're over 60, you've earned the right to protect your legacy, your savings, your decisions. Not with fear, but with clarity. Talk to someone you trust. Get a second opinion. Take your time, because your money is not just currency, it's your history, your future, your freedom, and no one should have access to it without your full understanding. This chapter is for every elder who has signed something they didn't fully read, who has nodded through jargon they didn't grasp, who has felt pressured to act before they were ready. It's a call to pause, to question, to reclaim your financial voice, because silence is expensive, and confusion is costly. And the moment you say, explain it to me like I'm new, you begin to take back control, not just of your money, but of your confidence, your dignity, your power. They don't knock with fear, they arrive with hope, with healing, with promises of peace. The spiritual seller doesn't wear greed on their sleeve. They wear robes, beads, titles, and smiles that feel sacred. And if you're over 60, they know exactly what to say. You've lived a long life. You deserve release. Your soul needs cleansing. And those words, wrapped in reverence, feel like comfort. They speak of energy, of karma, of divine timing. And they offer solutions. Oils, crystals, chants, courses, retreats, and blessings, all for a price. And the price is never just money. It's trust, it's vulnerability, it's the quiet ache of someone searching for meaning in the later chapters of life. They don't demand. They suggest, they guide, they gently nudge you toward dependence. And slowly, you begin to believe that your peace depends on their product, their ritual, their presence. They may say, this will protect your family. This will heal your body. This will bring you clarity. And when it doesn't, they say, you didn't believe enough, you need more, you're still blocked. And so you buy again, attend again, surrender again. Not because you're foolish, but because you're human, and because their words feel like answers to questions you've carried for decades. And the tragedy is that many spiritual sellers are not just strangers, they're community leaders, family friends, even online influencers who build trust before they build dependency. And what begins as inspiration becomes indoctrination, and what begins as guidance becomes control. They may ask for donations, for loyalty, for silence, and they may discourage you from questioning, from researching, from listening to your own intuition. And if you do question, they may say, "You're resisting, you're not ready, you're being negative," and those words, wrapped in spiritual language, become emotional shackles. This chapter is not an attack on faith. It's a defense of discernment. It's a reminder that your soul is sacred, and no one should profit from your pain, your fear, or your longing. If someone's teachings make you feel small, scared, or dependent, pause, reflect, reclaim. Ask yourself, do I feel empowered, or do I feel controlled? And if the answer leans toward control, it's time to step back. Talk to someone outside the circle, read widely, trust your instincts, because true spirituality liberates, not limits. And if you're over 60, you've earned the right to seek peace without being sold promises. Your wisdom is not for sale, your faith is not a product, and your healing is not a transaction. This chapter is for every elder who has been made to feel like they're broken, blocked, or behind. Unless they pay, attend, or obey. It's a call to remember that your journey is yours, and anyone who claims to own it is not guiding you, they're using you. And the moment you say, "I choose my own path," you begin to walk in truth, not theirs, but yours. They don't come with scams, they come with selfies, with laughter, with hugs that feel familiar. The tech-savvy grandchild isn't a stranger, they're family, and that's what makes it so complicated. They know your passwords, your phone settings, your bank apps, your social media, because you trusted them, because you needed help, because they offered without hesitation. And at first, it feels harmless. They set up your Wi-Fi, fix your email, help you shop online, and you're grateful. Relieved, even proud of how smart they are. But slowly, the lines blur. They begin making purchases on your behalf, accessing your accounts without asking, changing settings you don't understand, and you start to feel like your digital life isn't yours anymore. They may say, "Don't worry, I've got it. You don't need to learn this. Just give me your PIN." And because you love them, because you trust them, you do. And that trust becomes access, and that access becomes control. They may not mean harm, they may not even realize they're crossing boundaries. But intent doesn't erase impact, and love doesn't justify intrusion. And if you're over 60, you may feel embarrassed to speak up, afraid to seem ungrateful, unsure how to reclaim your space without causing conflict. But silence is not safety, and confusion is not consent. You have the right to understand your own devices, your own accounts, your own data. And you have the right to say, "I want to learn. I want to manage this myself. I need you to explain." And if they resist, if they mock, if they dismiss, that's not help, that's control. And the tragedy is that many elders lose not just money, but confidence. They begin to doubt their ability to navigate the modern world, and that doubt becomes dependence. This chapter is not about blaming grandchildren. It's about naming patterns, about protecting dignity, about restoring autonomy. It's a reminder that technology should empower, not intimidate. And if someone uses tech to bypass your voice, your choices, your privacy, it's time to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, do I feel informed or do I feel managed? And if the answer leans toward managed, it's time to speak up. Talk to someone you trust, take a class, ask questions. Because your age is not a barrier, it's a badge of wisdom, and you deserve to understand the tools that shape your life. This chapter is for every elder who has felt lost in the digital world, who has handed over control out of love, who has stayed silent out of fear. It's a call to reclaim your digital space, to set boundaries even with family, to remember that respect includes explanation, and love includes listening. And the moment you say, "Teach me, don't take over," you begin to rewrite the story, not just of your tech, but of your power. They don't shout, they don't steal, they don't isolate, they dismiss. And dismissal, especially when it comes from someone close, someone trusted, someone who claims to care, can feel like erasure. The one who says, "It's just a phase," doesn't argue. They minimize, they wave away your concerns, they make you feel like your emotions are inconvenient, your instincts are exaggerated, your voice is too loud. And if you're over 60, you've likely heard it more than once. When you express worry About your health, your finances, your relationships, your safety, they say, "You're overthinking, you're being dramatic, you're just lonely," and those words, wrapped in casual tone, cut deeper than criticism. Because they don't just ignore your feelings, they make you doubt them. And doubt, when planted in someone who's already navigating change, loss, and vulnerability, grows into silence. You stop speaking up, stop asking questions, stop trusting your own gut, and that silence becomes dangerous. They may say, "You're just tired, you're just bored, you're just going through something." And while some phases are real, not all concerns are temporary. And the tragedy is that this dismissal often comes from those who love you: children, partners, friends. People who think they're helping by downplaying, by distracting, by deflecting. But help without listening is harm, and care without validation is control. And when you try to explain again, when you try to say, "This matters to me, I feel unsafe, I feel unheard," they may sigh, change the subject, or offer surface-level comfort that doesn't touch the root of your pain. And slowly, you begin to feel invisible. Not because you're not present, but because your presence is treated like background noise. And if you're over 60, that invisibility can feel like a slow fading of your relevance, your authority, your emotional truth. This chapter is a reckoning, not against people, but against patterns. It's a reminder that your feelings are not phases, your instincts are not overreactions, and your voice is not optional. If someone makes you feel like your concerns are just a phase, pause and ask, whose comfort is being protected, mine or theirs? And if the answer is theirs, it's time to speak louder. Talk to someone who listens, write down what you feel, trust your own clarity, because you've lived long enough to know when something's wrong, and you don't need permission to name it. This chapter is for every elder who has been made to feel like they're exaggerating, like they're emotional, like they're just going through something, when in truth, they're going through everything. It's a call to reclaim your emotional space, to demand to be heard, to remind the world that your phase is not confusion, it's wisdom. And the moment you say, "This is real, and I deserve to be taken seriously," you begin to rewrite the narrative, not just for yourself, but for every voice that's been silenced by dismissal.